St. Petersburg manuscript that describes the uses, serious and for entertainment, as the title says, of gunpowder. We see pictures of a small barrel on the end of a stick. This is a hand cannon, or even the forerunner of a hand gun. This is the basis of the weapons that are carried by every soldier today.
But incredibly, the manuscript contains even more clues to the sophistication of warfare in the Eastern world. The use of fireproof clothing.
This is reconstructed based on the St. Petersburg manuscript. We start out underneath with silk tunic. We know that silk's fireproof. Even today, Formula One racing drivers wear silk underneath their Nomex fire suits. On top of that, we've a quilted garment. To a Western warrior of the time, it'd be known as an akaton. That comes from the Arabic al-kutun, meaning stuffed with cotton. But the key part is this on top, which is a woolen overtunic, a fireproof, indeed chemical-proof layer, similar to the nuclear biological warfare suits that a modern soldier would wear on the battlefield.
The manuscript illustrates warriors with incendiary devices covering their clothing. This would have created a terrifying firestorm as they were ignited just before the warriors charged into the ranks of enemy cavalry.
The incendiary charges are something like this. They describe linen fibre. This is linen fibre, flax, just a twist of that linen fibre, and in here a nice bundle of gunpowder, black powder. These are shown on the illustrations of the manuscript, fastened to the fireproof clothing. It also says how they're fastened together with wire. This wire holds the linen fibre, but also allows it to be pushed and fastened onto the garment.
But how effective would this form of protection have actually been? Using original materials, we put it to the test.
Of course, there'd be literally hundreds of these going off on different men. That would be really distracting to the horses. But for me, the most interesting thing is not even a scorch mark. In fact, it's hardly even warm inside. Fireproof clothing really does seem to work.
But incredibly, one device recently discovered in the ancient texts has caused us to revisit our ideas about concepts of warfare in the Eastern world.
There are some interesting comparisons to make between these medieval military technologies and much more modern ones. One that particularly comes to mind is the design for what we might call a torpedo.
It was called the egg which moves itself and burns, and it is now believed that this weapon was the first torpedo in history.
It's an anti-shipping device. Unlike a modern torpedo, it didn't slide along under the surface, it skimmed along the surface.
But did the war engineers of the East really possess the skills and knowledge to build such sophisticated devices?
Until recently, we believed that the torpedo was a 19th century invention. So to learn about a precursor to this from 700 years ago really causes us to sit back and look again at history, particularly the history of naval warfare. This is a torpedo. How effective it is, we don't really know.
To try to answer this question, we challenged model maker Richard Windley to test this marvel of Eastern technology using a design based upon the original 13th century blueprints.
The model I've here has been constructed based on illustrations from one of the early Islamic texts from around about 1220. The text talks about a pear-shaped device, or a flattened pear-shaped device. This is made out of copper and iron plate. The main tube running across the top of the vessel is the holder for the black powder charge. The point was so that if it hit a wooden vessel like a ship, it would impale itself.